It was 2:17 a.m. when the pounding on my door ripped me out of a restless sleep. The sound was sharp, insistent, like a hammer against my skull. I bolted upright, heart racing, the cold January air seeping through my Seattle apartment's thin windows. Nobody knocks at this hour. Not unless the world's falling apart. I stumbled out of bed, my bare feet slapping the hardwood floor, still half caught in a dream about missing a deadline at my tech job. The pounding came again, louder, followed by a voice, raw, desperate. "Ellie, please. It's me. Open the door." That voice. I hadn't heard it in over a year. But I'd know it anywhere. My sister, Tara. I froze, hand hovering over the deadbolt. Family showing up unannounced always meant trouble. Years of chaos, fights, tears, ultimatums flashed through my mind. Tara and I hadn't spoken since last Christmas, when she stormed out of Mom's house after a screaming match. But something in her voice, something broken, made me twist the lock. The door swung open, and the icy air hit me like a slap. There she was, Tara, 29 years old, barely standing, her dark hair matted with melting snow. One eye was swollen shut, her lip split, blood crusted at the corner. Her jacket hung open, revealing a torn flannel shirt, and her arms were wrapped around her daughter, Sophie, a fragile 7-year-old in a wheelchair. Sophie's small hands clutched a silver locket, her knuckles white, her eyes wide and unblinking. The sight of them, bruised, shivering, broken, made my stomach lurch. Oh my God, Tara, what happened? I reached for her, but her knees buckled, and she collapsed against me with a soft, pained moan. Sophie's wheelchair bumped the doorframe, but she didn't let go of that locket, holding it like it was her lifeline. I wrestled the chair inside with one hand, half carrying Tara with the other. Her body trembled under my arm, her ribs shifting in a way that screamed something was wrong. "Don't talk," I whispered, guiding her to the couch. "You're safe now, both of you." But were they? Was I? The questions clawed at me as I grabbed blankets, water, anything to make them look less like they'd been dragged through hell. Then my phone buzzed on the kitchen counter. I almost ignored it. Nothing good comes from a text at 2 a.m. But something told me to look. It was from Mom. 4 words, cold and sharp. "Don't help her. She's trouble." My hand went numb. I read it again, hoping I'd misread it in my sleep-deprived haze. But no. My mother, Lynn Carter, the woman who taught me to say grace, who preached family above all, had just written off her own daughter and granddaughter. Trouble. Like they were stray dogs. Not blood. Tara's soft groan pulled me back. She was curled on the couch, clutching her side, trying to make herself smaller. Sophie wheeled closer, still silent, her fingers wrapped around that locket like it was all she had left. Memories of Mom's tough love flooded back, her lectures about strength, her sneers when I showed weakness, her insistence that Tara was ungrateful for every scrap of kindness. But this wasn't tough love. This was cruelty, raw and unfiltered. "I'll get the first aid kit," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. I dug out an old medical kit from under the bathroom sink, patching up Tara's worst cuts as best I could. "You need a hospital," I told her. Then, to Sophie, "Sweetie, you okay?" She didn't answer, just tightened her grip on the locket. My hands shook as I picked up my phone again. Not to text Mom back, she didn't deserve it. I dialed 911. "Seattle Emergency Services. What's your emergency?" My sister showed up at my apartment. "She's hurt, badly. I think it's domestic violence." My voice cracked, but I gave them the address, answering their calm questions while my mind screamed that this was going to blow up everything. When I hung up, the room was quiet except for Tara's uneven breathing. She opened her good eye, looked at me, and whispered, "You don't know the whole story, Ellie. It's worse than you think." Her words hit like a punch. I leaned closer. "What do you mean?" She glanced at Sophie, now asleep on a pile of cushions, still clutching that locket. Then she spoke, her voice so faint I had to strain to hear. "It started months ago. Jake, her boyfriend, he's been getting meaner. Snapping over nothing. Last night, he lost it. Over Sophie's disability checks. He held a knife to my throat. Ellie said if I didn't hand them over, he'd make sure we'd both regret it. I froze. He did what? She nodded, tears spilling. He called us leeches, kicked me, twice. When Sophie tried to stop him, he shoved her chair so hard she almost tipped over. He didn't care. And Mom? I asked, dreading the answer. Tara's laugh was bitter, hollow. She was there. Ellie watched it happen. I thought she'd say something. Anything. But you know what she did? Told us to get out. Said she was done with us. My jaw clenched. Mom hadn't just stood by, she'd backed Jake. Excused his temper, like always. Every holiday, every snide comment he made, she'd brushed it off as stress. And we'd let her. I'd let her. Shame burned in my chest. So you came here, I said softly. Tara nodded. I remembered your address from that birthday card you sent. I didn't have anywhere else to go. I knew you wouldn't turn us away. Something in me tightened. Never. Sophie stirred, her small voice cutting through the silence. Are we safe here? It was like a knife to the gut. I smoothed her hair back. Yes, sweetheart, you're safe. But I wasn't sure. I grabbed my phone again. This time to document everything. Tell me what happened, I said, opening the voice recorder. Every detail. Tara's voice shook as she recounted the night, the fight over the check. Jake's knife. Mom's betrayal. Their desperate escape into the freezing night. When she finished, I saved the recording and started snapping photos of her injuries, bruised ribs. A cut near her collarbone. The swelling around her eye. Each click felt like a vow. This won't be ignored. Then I opened my laptop. My fingers cold as I logged into Tara's online banking. When did the checks start disappearing? I asked. About 6 months ago, she said. Jake took over the mail. Said it was for organization. I scrolled through her statements. My tech brain kicking in. Debugging the mess like code. There it was. Transfers out. Same day as Sophie's disability deposits. They rerouted it. I muttered, tracing the routing number. Straight to a joint account. Mom's name is on it. Jake's too. Tara closed her eyes. I knew it. I kept digging. Screenshotting every transaction. Month after month. Sophie's money, meant for her care, siphoned away. And for what? Cruises. A trip to Hawaii in April. A $6 charge for home improvements. Did they remodel anything? I asked. Tara's laugh was sharp. No. That's when Jake got his stupid boat. Rage burned through me. Sophie, still clutching her locket, was sketching flowers on a notepad in the corner. That locket was probably the only thing truly hers. And they were out there, sipping cocktails in paradise, on her money. There's more, Tara said, her voice barely audible. I looked up. What more? She hesitated. Then, I found papers in Jake's desk. Custody papers. He's trying to declare me unfit. He wants Sophie, full custody. My heart sank. Unfit? He's the one who held a knife to you. That's why I ran, she whispered. If he gets her, the checks go to him. And Mom, she'll back him. Like always. My mind spun. They weren't just stealing, they were planning to trap Tara. Strip her of her daughter. And secure Sophie's money for themselves. You're not alone anymore, I said, squeezing her hand. We'll fight this. Just then, my phone buzzed again. A voicemail. From Mom. I pressed play, and her voice slithered out. Colder than the Seattle winter. You think you can humiliate me? I can make one call. Ellie, and social services will take that girl. Don't test me. I know people. The room went still. Tara's face drained of color. Sophie kept sketching, unaware, but the air felt heavier. Like a storm was coming. She means it, Tara whispered. She's done it before. What are you talking about? Tears spilled down Tara's cheeks. Years ago, when I tried to leave Jake the first time. She said if I didn't behave, she'd have Sophie taken. Said I wasn't fit to raise her. Anger surged, hot and sharp. Mom wasn't protecting family, she was protecting her image. Her control. I opened my phone's recorder. Saved her voicemail. Emailed it to myself. And backed it up on my laptop. She wants a war? I said quietly. Fine. We'll fight on paper, where she can't twist the truth. Sophie looked up, her small hands trembling as she slid off her locket and held it out to me. Keep it safe, she said softly, in case they take me. I took it, the metal cold in my palm, and felt the weight of her fear. No one's taking you anywhere, I said, my voice firm. But as I set the locket on the table, a knock at the door, sharp, deliberate, sent my heart racing again. Through the peephole, I saw him, Jake, dressed in a clean jacket, holding a bouquet of flowers, smiling like he hadn't thrown my sister and niece into the snow hours ago. But his eyes, cold, calculating, told the real story. This wasn't peace. This was war. The courtroom smelled of polished wood and stale coffee. A sterile kind of quiet that made every shuffle of paper feel like a gunshot. I sat there, Ellie Harper, 32, gripping the edge of my chair, my knuckles white. Tara, my sister, 29, sat beside me, her hands trembling despite the weeks of preparation. Sophie, her 7-year-old daughter, was at the back with a social worker, her small fingers wrapped around that silver locket, her eyes fixed on her sketchpad. I could feel the weight of the moment pressing down on us. This wasn't just a custody hearing. This was a reckoning. 3 weeks had passed since Tara and Sophie showed up at my Seattle apartment. Bruised and broken, fleeing a nightmare, Jake, Tara's boyfriend, had held a knife to her throat, demanding Sophie's disability checks. Our mother, Lynn Carter, had watched it happen, then told them to get out. Worse, they'd been stealing Sophie's money for months, blowing it on cruises and a boat while Tara and Sophie scraped by. Now, here we were, in King County Superior Court, facing Lynn and Jake, who sat across the room like they owned it. Lynn walked in first, dressed in a pale blue blazer, her hair pinned neatly, a string of pearls gleaming at her throat. She looked like she was auditioning for Grandmother of the Year, not defending herself against theft and abuse. Jake followed, 35, in a tailored suit, his jaw tight but his face schooled into fake concern. Their lawyer, a slick man with a practiced smile, leaned toward them, whispering strategy. I wanted to scream, but Diane, our lawyer, had drilled it into us. Stay calm. Let the evidence speak. The hearing began, and Lynn took the stand first. Her voice was honey sweet, the kind that could charm a congregation. I'm here for my granddaughter, Sophie, she said, dabbing her eyes with a tissue. Tara's been struggling, emotionally unstable. You see, and Ellie, bless her heart, she's been misled, enabling this chaos. All I want is a safe home for Sophie. My nails dug into my palms. Lynn painted Tara as a wreck, me as a meddler, and herself as a saint. Jake nodded along, his hand resting on hers, playing the devoted partner. If I didn't know better, I might have bought it. Tara went next, and I saw her unravel. Diane had coached her for hours. Stay composed. Stick to the facts. But Lynn's lawyer was ruthless. He twisted her every word, making her hesitations sound like proof of instability. Isn't it true you've been erratic, Ms. Harper? That you've put your daughter in danger? Tara's voice cracked. No, I love Sophie. I'd never. She stopped, tears spilling, and I could feel the room tilting in their favor. Then Diane stood up. She was in her 50s, sharp-eyed, with a voice that cut through the tension like a blade. Ms. Carter, she began, addressing Lynn, her tone polite but lethal. You've spoken so movingly about your concern for Sophie. Tell me, does threatening to make your daughter and granddaughter disappear fall under that concern? Lynn blinked, caught off guard. I don't know what you mean. Diane didn't miss a beat. She nodded to the clerk. And suddenly, Lynn's voice filled the courtroom, cold, venomous, from the voicemail she'd left me. You think you can humiliate me? I can make one call, and social services will take that girl. Don't test me. I know people. The air shifted. The judge's eyes narrowed, his pen pausing over his notes. Lynn stammered, her saintly mask cracking. That was taken out of context. But there was no explaining it away. Diane let the silence hang, heavy and damning. No further questions, she said coolly. Then Jake broke. It was her idea, he blurted. pointing at Lynn. She said the money was ours to use. She said no one would care. The judge's gavel slammed down. Mr. Thompson. Enough. Their lawyer's face tightened, and Lynn shot Jake a look that could have burned through steel. Their alliance was crumbling, right there in front of everyone. The judge shuffled his papers. His expression unreadable. This court will deliberate, he said. Until then, Sophie remains with her mother, Tara Harper. Tara grabbed my hand under the table, tears streaming silently. It wasn't over, but it was a start. That night, my phone rang. I was at my kitchen table, surrounded by legal documents, Tara and Sophie asleep on the couch. The number was unfamiliar, but I knew the voice instantly. Lynn, you think you're clever, Ellie? Her tone was sharp, like broken glass. You think dragging me through court makes you a hero? I'll ruin you, your job, your reputation, everything. And that girl? She belongs with me, her real family. I let her talk, my heart pounding but my voice steady. Are you done? She laughed, bitter and cold. Oh, sweetie, I'm just getting started. I've already called people, social services. Your boss. You think they'll keep you when they hear you're hiding a kidnapped kid? You're threatening me, I said, flat. I'm promising you, she hissed. You've turned Sophie against us. But I can fix that. One call. For a moment, fear gripped me, not for myself, but for Sophie, for Tara. This wasn't about custody anymore. It was about control. Lynn wanted me back in line. The quiet daughter who never fought back. But I wasn't that person anymore. I walked to the window, staring at my reflection in the dark glass. You know, I said, my voice calm. I used to be scared of you. All those years, I thought if I stayed quiet, you'd stop hurting us. But you don't stop. Watch yourself, she snapped. No, I said, sharper now. You watch yourself. You like making threats? Good. Because I filed a criminal complaint 2 days ago. With the state attorney. Every screenshot of those stolen checks. Every photo of Tara's bruises. And that voicemail? The one where you said you'd make us disappear? They loved that. Her breathing hitched, short and shallow. You wouldn't, she stammered. Oh, I did. I said, call whoever you want, Mom. But the police are listening now. I hung up, the silence afterward feeling like freedom. Tara stirred on the couch. What happened? Nothing you need to worry about. I said softly, sleep. We're safe tonight. 3 months later, we were back in that same courtroom. But everything felt different. The wood still gleamed. The air still smelled of disinfectant. But I wasn't the same Ellie. Tara sat beside me, her hair neat, her face no longer shadowed by fear. Sophie, sketching loops in her notebook, seemed lighter, her locket glinting in the fluorescent light. Lynn and Jake entered, and the change was stark. Lynn's pearls were gone, her hair unkempt, her face lined with stress. Jake's suit couldn't hide his unease, his jaw twitching as he avoided her gaze. They didn't look at us. But I saw Lynn mutter something sharp. And Jake shrugged her off. Whatever bond they'd had was gone. Diane leaned toward us, her voice a steady whisper. Today, we end this. The judge entered, and the room hushed. This hearing addresses custody and criminal charges of financial exploitation and child endangerment. He said, his tone clipped. Diane stood, presenting our case with surgical precision. Screenshots of bank records, showing Sophie's disability checks funneled into Lynn and Jake's account. Photos of Tara's injuries. Medical reports. The voicemail. Played again. Lynn's voice hissing threats. The prosecutor added his findings. The funds meant for Sophie's care were used for personal luxuries, vacations. A boat. This court must address theft and accountability. Lynn tried to interrupt, her voice cracking. It's out of context. The judge's hand shot up. Mrs. Carter, you will remain silent unless addressed. Jake shifted, then snapped. She told me it was legal. It was her plan. Enough, the judge barked. Watching them turn on each other should have felt good. But it didn't. I was tired of the years they'd stolen. The fear they'd fed Sophie. But beneath that, a spark of vindication burned. The judge set down his papers with finality. The court finds evidence of financial exploitation and abuse. Full custody of Sophie Harper is granted to her mother, Tara Harper. Mr. Thompson is stripped of parental rights. Mrs. Carter is granted supervised visitation only. At Child Services' discretion, restitution for stolen funds is ordered. And criminal charges for fraud and endangerment will proceed. Tara's hand flew to her mouth. Tears spilling. I grabbed her hand, holding tight. Sophie looked up when the social worker told her she was going home with her mom. She grinned. And for a moment, the world felt right. As we packed up, Sophie wheeled over and pressed her locket into my hand. You kept me safe, she said simply. I knelt down, hugging her, the weight of her trust heavier than anything. Outside, the Seattle air was crisp. Clean. Tara stood beside me, Sophie on her lap, laughing for the first time in months. Justice wasn't joy. It was safety. It was a little girl free to laugh without fear. As we walked away from the courthouse, I thought about the years we'd spent surviving them. Lynn, Jake, their lies. They'd broken us, but they'd also taught us what strength really is. And we were never going back.